Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And we have an award-winning author here and award-winning artist. I think you know Lamont Carey. I mean, this young man has dedicated himself, and he has gone all the way to prison. He's done a lot of things with some of the prisoners. And one of the things he's doing now, he's dealing with art with the prisoners. I mean, this young man has spent a lot of time, so he knows both sides of it. Right. Lamont, welcome to the Ed Brown Show. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And I like to commend you, for the work that you've done and the work that you're doing for rehabilitation of young men coming out of prison. Yes. Tell us about it. That art, we talked about art. You said you're dealing with art. You have time for art?
Yeah, well, so I went to prison as a juvenile, and art became one of my ways of escaping from behind those walls. And so what I learned through creative writing, so I first started writing books in prison, and so what I learned is that it taught me how to make better decisions. It taught me how to map out a plan, and it calmed me. And so it's just something that I want to give to prisoners as well as at-risk youth. It's another vehicle that you can use to communicate. So some of the art forms I deal in is spoken word, which is another form of poetry, teaching acting. I've directed plays at like the John F. Kennedy Center, as well as casted for shows like HBO The Wire. And so art is accessible, and it's an alternative. Not only you can get a job, you can start an entertainment company, which I actually have, an entertainment company and a nonprofit. So I want to give some of the tools that helped me change my life to juveniles that I see myself in, if that makes sense.
And that to me, that seems to be something that's relaxing too, that a way that you can express something maybe you can't really explain it,
right?
But you can express it through art. Tell us how do you get the individual? I mean, they may think, hey, that's not manly, or
right.
nothing, So how do you get them to accept that?
So most young people, young boys, they are either into sports,
yeah,
or they're into like R&B, rap, rock, or what have you. And so a prime example, I was teaching a program. I was beginning to start to teach a program in an institution with juveniles charged as adults. And so up on when our program is supposed to start, we find out that it's a gang beef. So the juveniles not even living together. And so I didn't have the resources to attend to both groups. So what I did is that I started coming in off hours and meeting with each group to get to the bottom of what the beef was. And so we eventually got them to program together. So when we get them to program together, it still was tension. And so, we do post-assessment. So I saw that some of them had interest in the art. And so I put on a talent show inside the jail with these juveniles. And by the last performer, they knew the song and all of them sung along. And that's sort of how we were able to squash their beef, and now they're living together. So art, it helps them transform. It helps them see things different. And like you said, a lot of times people don't want you to know what's going on with them, but through fiction writing, you could be telling your story, but you could just have wings and be flying, right?
Right.
So fiction is a way to tell your story without making yourself vulnerable to people, because people know that it's fiction. So there are so many ways that I can use art to reach students, inmates, or what have you. Like some of my art, I have a poem out called I Can't Read that was featured on Russell Simmons' Deaf Poetry Jam.
Oh,
and schools around the world, thank you, schools around the world are using that poem in classroom. Like somebody just hit me from the UK telling me how my work has impacted their classroom. And the same week, a teacher from Detroit said how my work inspired young people to write. And I was contracted to write a book which is called Reach Into My Darkness, I Hate This Place, for the schools in Albany, because they wanted a tool that they could use that engage the kids, get the kids thinking, but also get them expressing what's going on inside of them. So I created a collection of poems called Reach Into My Darkness as that vehicle. And so art is, again, it's accessible. Most of us have some familiarity with art, but when I teach poetry, one of the ways when I teach poetry, I associate it with songs. So I get the kids to think about their favorite song and sing the chorus of their favorite song. And then I'll tell them at the basis of all songs, they begin as poems. Because a lot of times people don't want to, especially young men, don't want to write poetry.
No, because they figure that's not manly.
Right, because it's usually love notes. Right. They see poetry as love notes or some ancient language like Shakespeare used to talk or something. So I make it accessible to them. Whatever the popular song is now that they sing, I tell them that that song or that rap started as a poem, and they just added beats to it, and it transformed to spoken word, and now it's packaged into this certain genre as rap, R&B, rock, or what have you, but all of it start as poems.
Well, how do you get them, you have a system to get them to express it so that other people can understand what they're saying?
So yeah, I have a system. So I usually get them comfortable with writing first, refining that until they feel comfortable with it, and then I'll get them to recite it sometimes at their seat or or in a group where they're more comfortable. And then they'll gradually advance to performing it in front of an audience, in front of their group. So I teach them it's more public speaking, but I also use acting to get them in another character so they can get outside of themselves.
Yeah, well, where do you get the actual physical part of the art itself? Is that laid out on canvas, or just how do you do that?
So usually when I introduce art, I usually start off, I have several videos of me performing, so I usually start off with a video and talk to them about free writing. Because structure kind of confuse people. So I'll give them a subject matter to write on and allow them to free write, and then we'll shape it, edit until they're satisfied with it, and then we'll build on their public speaking skills and performance skills, and then they're ready to get in front of an audience.
Well, do you associate it with something that person is interested in?
Right. So we usually write from experiences, anything that they're comfortable with. A lot of times,
which they can do.
Right. A lot of times with young men, if they're inside of an institution, we'll talk about street culture. They'll write something about street culture that they're familiar with, or about young women, right? Nothing degrading, because we don't allow that, or we don't allow profanity, but we'll allow them to express themselves and shape it in a way that is pleasing to them, but also is understood by an audience. So we usually choose their subject, help them with their subject matter.
Do they have an opportunity to put their input on someone else's work?
Yeah, but we stress constructive criticism because they're in environments where they're easily offended.
Right.
And so it got to be positive. So anything that's slightly negative, it'll come from me on correction versus one of their peers.
Well, that's what I was thinking. That one of their peers, it'd be like a criticism.
Right.
But that's a very sensitive thing, Lamont. And really, the work that you're doing in it is just very unique.
Right.
Because of the fact that the subject matter and that you're working with is art is very sensitive.
So one of my main goals is always to break street code.
Yes.
Because a lot of our kids don't realize they have succumbed to a criminal culture that they adhere to, and so my goal is always to break street culture, and that way that gives them a chance at success, at opportunity, and it also teaches them writing, which translate over to essays, school writing. So I connect everything to education, entrepreneurship, and finding out what it is that they want to do with their rest of their life. And art is a business, because it's a business for me. It's how I make a living.
And you make sure that they understand this is a profession,
Right.
And that in order you get what you put into it.
Exactly.
That you know, you can't just like the language situation. They have, you know, one of the expressions they use is you ask them question and they say, well, I'm good, you know, and so really a person on the street, you wonder what that means, the average person.
So I got a book called Dead Before 18, Saving Our Boys from the Streets. And one of the chapters is, ain't nothing wrong with me, I'm good. And so what I focus on, if you have never tell anybody what's wrong with you or what it is that you want, it decreases the chances on you accomplishing it.
That's it. Well, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And that's why you're back here, because it's a unique thing and something that's really needed. Hey, this is Ed Brown. Hey, we got two more terrific guests here. We got old William Murry, and then we got Brown. We're going to see where Brown comes from. See you in a second. Hey, welcome back. I got rid of them gremlins, I tell you. But we got something better, Jamie Tolliver. Now, he's a relative of Brown. You know, you wonder, say, where did Ed Brown come from? Now, he's a substance abuse counselor, and also they got something on here concerning ancestry research. I'll bet you right now you can't tell who your aunt was 10 years ago. But he has done a terrific job here on the Ed Brown Show and on the Browns, you know. And I was floored, you know, when he said that he had all this material about the Browns, and see what happened, how we got into this. I'm a Brown, my wife is a Brown, so this Brown. So, hey, look, I want to know, where did those Browns come from, you know? Who brought them here? What area were they in? But he has done a terrific job. He has dates 1764 all the way back. Do any of you have anything from 1764? I don't think so. You know, and he goes back and he has pictures. You can see the display. He has pictures of individuals back in those days. And Jamie, tell us something. How did you get involved? You're a substance abuse counselor, and then you got involved in finding out where those Browns came from. They everywhere. Tell us about it.
Well, it's interesting. As I say, first time I got interested in my history was actually at Union Temple Baptist Church, which, you know, when you walk into the church, you know, there's a big mural of, you know, so many different, you know, of our ancestors, you know, from Carter G. Woodson, you know, and Carter G. Woodson, who's wrote who started Black History Month, wrote the book, The Miseducation of the Negro. I was intrigued with them, and, you know, but throughout the book and throughout the, you know, the things that I've learned at the church was basically just, you know, about, you know, what I didn't know about myself. And it was who I was.
Well, how did you get to the Brown aspects of it?
Oh, man.
Just tell me. You know, I'm interested in the Browns naturally, you know, and I'm just wondering, you know, the work that you've done. We have a display that shows the work all the way back to 1700s.
Right.
You know, and along with this display, it is fantastic. It actually named the individuals, the time that they were on this earth. And I'm just flabbergasted when I saw the work. It took some time. Just how do you take the time to do that research?
Well, with the assistance of family members, matter of fact, my cousin Jerry Green, who basically was one.
He's not a Brown, huh? He's a Green.
He's a Green, but he's related to the Browns.
But
he's married to a Brown.
He's married to a Brown.
He's married to a Brown. But in 2005, I went to a family reunion up in Germantown, and I was, you know, amazed to find out that I was a Brown. And how was I a Brown? My grandmother's maiden name was Brown. I never knew it.
And that was what year?
That was 2005.
2005.
And once I discovered that, it was like, oh man, a flood just opened up and just wanting to be.
So your grandmother was the Brown.
Was
That's
the
how
Brown.
you got involved with the Brown.
Yes, sir. My grandmother.
And so, how did you get the material that you have? The material, I don't think the African Museum, have that kind of data.
That's interesting. Jerry Brown, that came out of a family reunion book from 1993.
1993.
Right, 1993 family reunion. And in that book, it has a deed of land where my great-great-grandfather had purchased 10 acres of land. He was a freed slave, and he bought 10 acres of land, and there's a town on Black Rock Road off 118 and Route 118 in Germantown. It's called Brownstown, named after him.
And so
yes, sir.
you have a Brownstown here in Maryland. It's in Montgomery County. That your ancestry were involved in.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit more about Brownstown and some of the people.
Well, it's interesting. You know, matter of fact, I Googled that one day. I was just looking for the history of Germantown, Maryland.
Right.
And so by looking for the history of it, it was written by a friend of mine by the name of Susan Soderbergh, who's the president of Germantown Historical Society, which I'm a member of now.
Right.
But as I scrolled down, before I met Susan, I'm just scrolling down, you know, looking at the information on the about Brownstown, and then I got to the Civil War era. And at the Civil War era, they spoke of a free community and and it was named after a man by the name of William Brown. And I said, wait a minute, that's my great-great-grandfather. And it was on since then. And you know, I've just been researching. I go to Germantown a lot. I've talked to most of my elders, you know, who was there. And
some of the relatives are still living in Germantown.
Yes, sir. They're matter of fact, they're right there on the land that he purchased in 1864.
1864.
You know? Yeah, he purchased that land. He purchased 10 acres of land. He he built the first church. He built Asbury United Methodist Church. He donated the land to build the church, you know, and it was finished in 1888. He passed away prior to it being built. He also was basically instrumental in building the first black school in Germantown. Yes, you know, he basically
what was the name of that?
It was I can't remember the name of the school, but it was located before the school was before they actually got a school, because it was a one-room schoolhouse that was given to them by from a white school. It was formerly a white school, and they basically built a new school. So they gave that to Mr. Brown, and they basically, and before they had the school, they had school in the church, Asbury United Methodist Church, right? And also there's a cemetery that's right next to it. They have all my family members in it. So I go up there and get off.
In Germantown.
Yes, sir, off 118.
mean, you know, how did a cemetery like that survive with all the building that goes around, especially in Germantown and Montgomery County and places like that? How did they survive? And how do you get to Brownsville?
Brownstown.
You know Brownstown.
Yeah.
I have to go out there myself.
Yeah, you got to come.
Brownstown.
270. You go out 270. You know.
270.
Yeah, and you hit German. You know, and it's the Germantown exit that you hit out there. But and on actually, Brownstown is located on Black Rock Road. And Black Rock Road, basically, it starts at Germantown Road and ends up on Darnestown Road. And so,
all those names I'm familiar with, but I've never been there and never associated that with the Browns.
Oh yeah.
You know, just like I say, I'm a Brown. My wife was a Brown, therefore she's Brown. You know, but I just looked at those pictures. Those are authentic pictures of individuals, of your grandmother back in the 1700s, back in 1800. You know, well, that's something that. What about your children? How do you relay that to them?
You know, I'm always, it's the children. My son. You know, it's interesting. He's more. he has listened more, but right now and stuff, you know, they're not, you know, their interest isn't there. But I keep I keep explaining it to them. But one of the things that they have, you know, that I didn't have was the type of information that I'm able to give them.
Right.
Now,
Well, you can Google everything now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but just the fact that, you know, the research that I've been able to do, and
how long have you been researching your family?
Since 2005. Yeah, I've been really,
all this time.
Right.
But the demonstration and pictures that you have, how, you know, many times when you're trying to get family things together, you know, Aunt Susie has this, and Uncle Bob has this. He don't want to get rid of it, but you were able to get these pictures of the individuals back in 1700 and 1800 and make a display out of it.
Yeah, we need to see this. Our family, our children, you know, I have a sign, my wife, we have a picture in the kitchen, and it says, "Home is where our story begins." And what story do you get? Unfortunately, my mother, when she left Germantown at a very young age, and it wasn't, she didn't leave on good terms. Right. So that information was withheld to me, from me,
revealed
from pain, from the pain that basically had to cause her to move. You know, but
well, how a lot of people don't realize how important it is, the history and what you've done. How do you get the youngsters involved in it so we can really research things like the things that you've done since 2005? And hey, this is 2017. What is that? The years that it takes to, and the patience that you have to get this information. How do you get relatives to let go Aunt Susie's keepsakes or Uncle John's so and so, you know, that he used on the farm, and a lot of the youngsters don't understand. An area like Germantown, people associate that with the Europeans.
Yes, indeed.
You know, but
and that's interesting.
Yeah, that is the interesting. They associate that, and I'm talking about the high class Europeans. You know, I'm not talking about the regular ones. And you know, and how do you? Do you get information from them too?
Yes, and as a matter of fact,
you want to wrap it up, and we're gonna have you back.
Right, but real quick, in Germantown and stuff, the Germans freed their slaves. Yeah,
the Germans
they freed.
You heard
and the Irish basically kept them enslaved.
Yeah.
Okay, the Germans freed them in Germantown.
Well, you heard it from Mr. Tolliver, and he's done terrific research. And if you want to hear more about this, keep tuned to Ed Brown's show. We'll be doing this all month. Okay. Hey, see you in a second. We got Bill. You know who Bill is. He's the guy that's out there trying to get young people into business world. See you in a second. Hey, welcome back to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And what we're trying to do, always the youth are involved. And Mr. Williams, what he's trying to do, William Murry, we're trying to get this division together. We got Mrs. Groves here, and we're talking about, you know, the youth. We're talking about the fact we got to get the youth in the business world. And actually, Mr. Williams, I call him, I don't know his last name, but I'll call him Bill, you know. But Bill and Mrs. Groves, they're trying to get this program. It's going to tell us a little bit about this program that's coming up.
Well, Ed, you know, we have the Millionaire Mastermind Institute has a youth division within the institute, and we're doing an event called College Preparatory and Entrepreneurship, where we go get them prepared for college, tell them what they need, and then we go teach them about entrepreneurship. And I have with me my staff member, Miss Yvonne Groves. She's the PR person for the Institute, and she's going to tell you more about what we're going to do with everything.
And where? Make sure you tell us.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mr. Brown, thank you for having us. We're going to be teaching, we're bringing students in and their parents in to show them how to get money for college, grants, loans, state money, and we're also going to be teaching them the application process to get into the college. We know this is the time of the year where parents are really thinking about that. The end of the year is coming up. It's time to get ready for college, and a lot of people are struggling with that, and I've heard a lot of people talking about that.
Yeah,
so
everybody is.
Absolutely,
yeah.
and it's very difficult. It's even if you've gone to college, it's still a difficult
Now,
process.
where is this going to be held in the time?
It's going to be held in Laurel, Maryland, and the time is going to be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday, February the 18th. Can I give the address? The address? Okay,
Yes.
It's 8101 Sandy Spring Road, Suite 290 in Laurel, Maryland, 20707.
Suite 2.
Okay, really what's happening here is that they're presenting something that parents out there need. This is something we want the youngsters to get involved in. Get involved to business. And this youth division, this is something new, Bill, isn't it?
Well, it's roughly about, we've had it for a while, and we really just really boosted it because we realized the value of the youth. They need to know what classes they need to take in college, you know, in order to prepare. Because I'm very adamant on them taking entrepreneurship, on them taking business class, on them taking finances.
Well,
it's very important.
finances.
But this 2A is for the adults. The parents can come, because they got questions. You know, it's
Right.
for the youth, but the parents can come just to help them. And we're going to have Helen Bowers going to help with the class. And she's going to give all the information, have all the forms you need and everything there, so you won't have to, you know, struggle trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
You get a chance for one-on-one session right there.
All right. Well, this is an opportunity for you to get involved and get the youngsters. Make sure the youngsters know about this, because really, Bill and Mrs. Grove, they're doing a terrific job here, and it's something that we need. And get the youngsters involved in the business world, because that's where the freedom is. This has been Ed Brown, and don't forget, hey, this is month
Black
of
History
the,
Month.
pardon me?
Black History Month.
Black History Month, you know.
What are you, superheroes?
Just four brothers who hate bullies and love this city. Gear up, guys.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Puedes encontrar aventuras en cualquier parte, pero el mejor lugar para iniciar la búsqueda está en el bosque.
I spied something beginning with S.
Snow.
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Sal a descubrir animales increíbles, hermosas plantas y árboles que se unen para crear una aventura inolvidable.
Wow.
Así que ven con tus seres queridos
Don't even.
a explorar un mundo de posibilidades.
Come on, this way.
Visita descubrelbosque.org para encontrar el bosque o parque más cercano.